Well, you and I are going to have some fun today. And as you know, in the last class, we're sticking with that theme of the law of rhythm. But this time, what we're going to do is we're going to take the law of rhythm out of its theory, which most people stay stuck there. They don't kind of move past the theory. And we're actually going to bring that theory into your body so that you can actually feel your internal tides instead of fighting them. We don't want to fight our internal tides. The more that we understand them and the more that we learn about them, the easier it is for us to come into regulation quicker than, sometimes when we have really crazy nervous system experiences, it can take us a few days. And a lot of times, the reason it can take us a few days is because we really don't understand the rhythm of our own bodies. And again, everybody's rhythm is different. So my rhythm will not be like your rhythm. So it's so important for us to really learn about how we process things, how we actually learn things, because that learning can help us connect to the resources that we need in particular to just help us begin that regulation process. And when we talk about the law of rhythm, and I'll say in our own well-being, it is really connected to that law of rhythm because throughout the day, we go through many different rhythms, and we'll talk a lot more about that. But just to get us started, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have us do just a little bit of breathing to just kind of bring us into this moment. So go ahead and just close your eyes, get really comfortable in your seat. I want you to just notice if there's any tension in your body, and if there is, just give it permission to relax. So maybe it might be softening the shoulders, loosening the jaw. Maybe it's tightness in your chest and just give it permission to just be. And that's all that we're asking. We're not asking anything more of it, but just to be. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and take a deep inhale through the nose, pulling it as far down as you can. And then do a long, long exhale, just a long, gentle exhale out through your mouth. And then let's go ahead and do another one together. So that long inhale through the nose, as deep as possible. And then the long exhale, just gently out your mouth. And any time that we're doing breathing, the longer the exhale, the better for us and the more healthier it is for us and for our nervous system. And then just allow your breath to just fall into its natural rhythm, not forced, not shaped, just witness. And just as you breathe, imagine yourself just listening inward and just listening and connecting to the language of your body. And today, this is exactly what we're going to learn, how to connect in with the language and the rhythm of our body. And when you're ready, if it feels comfortable, you can take another deep breath in and gently allow that exhale to just fully come to fruition. And then just go ahead and gently open your eyes. All right. Okay. So we're going to dive in and we're immediately going to talk about why nervous system regulation matters and why it's important. We often ignore this part of our body And it's not always on purpose. It's because the brain, the logical mind, oftentimes overrides it. And so the more connected that we can become with our bodies, we can literally disrupt that pattern of of our brain trying to take over. So last week we talked about natural cycles. I talked about the ocean a lot and the tides and how everything rises and everything falls. And your nervous system will follow that same rhythm. So there are three main states that our body moves through. And the first one is known as mobilization, and this is connected to the sympathetic nervous system, part of the nervous system. This is our go, go, go energy. This is our alertness. This is our focused energy. And just as a reminder, we can move through all of these throughout the day. So when we're in mobilization, we're alert, we're ready, we're going. Here we go. And then we have what is known as our rest and digest, and that's connected to our parasympathetic nervous system. That's when we're calm, we have clarity, we feel connected. We literally can just take that relaxing breath and just like, and just kind of relax into our bodies and our way of being. And then the next one is the freeze collapse state. And that happens through our dorsal vagal nerve. And this is where we shut down, we get brain fog, we can feel very disconnected, we can feel very dissociated. And there's a difference between feeling disconnected and dissociated. We can feel disconnected and still feel somewhat grounded in our body. Dissociation happens when the mind and the body completely split, and it's almost like we're experiencing our life as like the observer watching it. So that can happen in that freeze collapse stage. And not one of these stages is bad because sometimes we really need that. Sometimes we do need that freeze collapse stage just so that we can move through whatever experience that we're having. But the issue happens when we get stuck in one of these stages because we're not actually hearing and connecting with our own internal cues. So, a lot of times, most overwhelm and burnout show up when we are literally working against our own rhythm instead of recognizing and working with it. And I'm one for talking. Like we talk to our bodies, talk to ourselves, because believe it or not, our own tone of our voice, we were born with it. Our body knows it. So when we are able to have our own conversation, it is a familiar tone that it recognizes. And believe it or not, it can help in that regulation process. So today, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to start really regulating our rhythm by learning the most important thing is by recognizing it, is having that awareness. And I always say awareness is everything. Okay, so let's move and talk about our energy signature. So again, just like the ocean has tides and the tides move in, they move out, they move in, they move out, your body has its own repeating energy pattern. And this is known as your signature rhythm. And like I said before, all of our rhythms are different. Not one person has the same rhythm. So that's why learning what your own personal signature rhythm is really important because as I said earlier, what might work for me in regulating my system may not be something that necessarily works for you. So we have four different types of rhythms that we can move through. And we can actually move through all four of these throughout the day. So the first one is always our baseline rhythm. And this rhythm is just how we just normally, naturally move throughout the day. Maybe, and this is a bit of how my rhythm works, my rhythm works best when I can have slow mornings. That when I hit close to that midday, that's when my energy rises. And then I've mentioned this before, my afternoon dip, which hits about 2 p.m. And then as I move into the evening, I kind of start to get a bit of like that evening spark for a little bit, where I kind of start to like get a little bit more energy again. But yours might be the opposite of that. Maybe you wake up in the morning and you've got that spark and you're like, I'm ready to go. And maybe what happens is you hit that spark and you might have like a midday dip, and then maybe in the afternoon, you kind of take a little bit more of that slow process, and then you move into the evening. So it it can be different for everyone. And that's just part of how rhythm is. And sometimes we think because we have those kind of those dips and it moves in that waves that we oftentimes call that energy or of that nervous system inconsistency, but it really isn't. It's just how your natural tide works. And again, important to learn because it really, if once you learn that, you can really understand like when I hit my evening spark, like that's a lot of times when I like to really like do more of, I'm gonna say my mental stuff. And then when I hit my midday rise, that's when I do more of my physical stuff. And then of course in my afternoon dip, I'm like, it's nap time. So I'm gonna go take my or try to take my nap if I can. So it's just about learning how your rhythm works. And then next we have what is known as our activation rhythm. And these are really important to pay attention to because these are our early warning signs. An activation rhythm can look like a tight jaw, shallow breathing, which is shallow breathing is a very common one that we oftentimes don't listen to. We begin to ruminate and overthink. We might have the clenching of the jaw or even just the clenching of the body, the muscles tighten up. Or we start to feel that sense of urgency. It might be that hustle energy. So when you notice these things, what happens is when this starts to arise, what we're actually doing is we're pushing past ourselves. And so that pushing past is also known as override. An override is actually a trauma response, but it's a trauma response that is very proactive and it always lives in the present moment. So it's when we start having that activation, again, present moment, we override it. And examples that we'll say to ourselves that is an indication that we are overriding is I need to keep going because I have to. I need to keep going because I have this deadline. I need to keep going. I need to keep going. And that's a really good indication that you're starting to move into activation mode. And then we have our restoration rhythm. And when we are in the restoration rhythm, these are cues that tell us that we're starting to kind of enter into an ebb. And that ebb might feel like heaviness, tired eyes, sensitivity. And sensitivity could be to sound, to noise, to other people's behaviors. It might be sensitivity to your own behavior, or it could also look as withdrawal. And your body isn't breaking, it's just a signal to listen to, and it's telling you, like, maybe you just need to pause for a bit. Take a step back and just have that pause. And then the last rhythm is your return rhythm. And this is when your system begins to rise again. You might start to feel more creativity coming in. Your body and your energy itself might start to feel lighter. You might start having clearer thinking. Those overthinking or those ruminating thoughts might start to level out and they start to become clearer, they start to slow down. We start to have discernment between what thoughts are really important or what thoughts are just flying through our head. And this is the natural upward swing. And it also returns when we stop forcing. So we can go into that return rhythm when we start forcing it. And these rhythms don't happen in linear order. They can happen in any order throughout the day. And even when we start to learn what our rhythm is, it's important for us if we kind of know how our rhythm is and we have a day where we are kind of moving through these rhythms and it's not and maybe it's not consistent with what we recognize. It's not about panicking and thinking that something is wrong. It's just all about listening to what rhythm am I in. So it is possible for it to change day to day. The key takeaway is just to recognize what rhythm am I in? What does my body and my nervous system need at this moment? So I'll pause right there. Do you have any questions about any of that? All right. So, as you know, I always love having you journal. So, hopefully, you have pen and paper with you. So, we're going to do a yes, I love it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do a self-assessment of just kind of recognizing where your nervous system is right now in this moment. So go ahead and just put your hand on your heart and you can put your hand on your belly or on your sacral wherever it feels comfortable. And I just want you to just connect into whatever rhythm you're breathing out at this current moment. And just connect into it. And I just want you to take just a few minutes. And I don't want you to change it. I don't want you to judge it. We're just going to take information from it. Just connecting. Okay. So now with your pen and paper, I'm just going to ask you a few questions, and you don't have to write a whole long thing about it, just maybe the first couple words that come in. And the first question is very simple, is am I in mobilization? Am I in rest? Or am I in freeze? And then the next question is, what physical sensations tell me that? And then what emotions show up from this state that I am currently in? And then what thoughts indicate I'm pushing or spiraling? And then the last one, which is really important, what does my body need today? And I'm going to let you sit with that one a little bit longer because that's really important. What does my body need? How can I honor what my body needs today? Not for tomorrow, not for the next days, but right now in this moment. Beautiful. And then I just want you to just take notice. You don't have to write anything down. Was that easy for you? Was that a little bit difficult for you? Did you maybe feel yourself completely connect with the body? With your body, not the body, I'm sorry, with your body. Did you feel disconnected? Maybe there was a little bit of dissociation. All I want you to do is just bring it into your awareness. Nothing more, nothing less, no judgment. Because again, everything is a awareness. And all we're doing is we're just teaching our nervous system and our brain and even our subconscious to just recognize what's happening. Perfect. All right. So I always recommend, I like for me, I in the morning, I love to journal. So in the morning, these are some of the questions that I ask myself. If I don't, and this is me and how I operate, but if I don't check in with my body in the morning, and let's say that I just wake up and I just start going, my nervous system actually stays heightened. It stays at that on the edge of the window of capacity because remember the window of capacity is I feel calm, I feel good. We're really in that ventral vagal nerve of just feeling good about ourselves. But for me, if I don't check in with my body in some way, shape, or form, I sit at that edge of that window. So my body is on alert. And I say my body, my nervous system and my brain are triggered to be on alert, constantly scanning people, places, and things. And what can I regulate outside of myself so that the inside of my regulation feels safe? And that's not necessarily a healthy place to be. And I lived in that for a very, very, very long time. And that actually is really hard on our bodies because what happens is it starts to trigger the adrenal system and it starts pumping cortisol in our body. And we don't even know it. And so a symptom of that is you may think that you're relaxed and winding down, but because you're sitting on that alert and your body is just pumping that cortisol into it, that at night, so again, a symptom of that is like at night is insomnia, not being able to sleep or having very disturbed sleep is a really good indicator that maybe I do need to figure out just it, and it can take like maybe 2 minutes during the day. Where can I fit something like this in? Or maybe it's just little constant check-ins with your body throughout the day. So I really had to train myself to do this because I'm not one to sit down ever. Like if you ask my friends, they're like, "Well, what are you doing today?" Like, because I've always lived a life of being like on the go and having to do stuff. Or as I mentioned before, like I worked in crisis, so we used to always say, well, crisis never sleeps, and it's very true. So I was always living on that edge, waiting for that next crisis to have to go in and help with. So not doing crisis anymore, I really have to start training my body again. And so this leads me into the next part, which I'm going to play a video for you. And I actually really love this video. And, but before we dive in and go a little bit deeper into that of how regulation works inside the body, one of the things that I want to show you in this video is it's a person learning a pattern incorrectly, repeating it automatically, and then having to relearn the correct one again. And this is often what happens with our nervous system. Our nervous system begins to become dysregulated, honestly, during childhood. And so we start learning how to adapt. And adaptation is not a bad thing, it's just part of our survival. So we start learning how to adapt, and then we become adults and we're like, well, wait a minute, like I can't live like this anymore. Like this is not serving me anymore. And then what we try to do is we try to think our way out of it, but we can't. We have unconsciously trained our nervous system, which often reacts unconsciously to whatever it is that we're doing. So it does take time to, when we're talking about nervous system regulation, it doesn't happen in a day, it doesn't happen in a week. We have to consciously be aware of it and be able to help it learn a new way over time. But here's the beautiful thing is our brains are full of that neuroplasticity, and when we start to rewire that, we actually can learn a new way of doing things. So we are not stuck in our habits. We get caught in the rut of being impatient because we want that habit to be broken before we allow our body and our system to feel safe enough to install that, to then basically implant it or create it into our neuroplasticity. But it is completely possible. I promise you. That is one thing I can say I promise that we can actually do. All right. I love that video because it just says so much about how we learn and the biases that we pick up during those survival or trauma responses and how deep they can get really imprinted in our brain. So you just watched how his rhythm worked and how our rhythm works. So the brain learns a pattern. The pattern then becomes automatic. And here's the thing that's very key when we're wanting to change that pattern. Because the brain learns it and it becomes automatic in our system actually begins to resist that change. There is nothing wrong with us. We're not defective because of it, but it's because the rhythm has been practiced for so long that it feels comfortable and correct. And like he said in the video, we have now created this bias that creates this very rigid way of thinking and believing, even when it isn't true. But that's what our entire system holds on to. So oftentimes what happens is I hear people go, "Well, I just need to let go of the belief." Yes, that's important, but it doesn't work. And I try to reframe that into, well, we can let go of it, but we have to actually unlearn it to let go of it. But now that you say that, it tells me it's in your awareness, and we're at that first step towards unlearning. And I'm just as guilty of that too, because I sit there and I go, "Ah, I don't even know why I think that way or why I believe that way. I'm just not going to believe that anymore." And then within 5 minutes, I'm back to believing the same thing, right? So it does take work for us to be able to unlearn something that we have learned a long time ago. And, in watching this video, when I was watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, I wish that I was 4 years old again, right? Because children do have, like he said, have a lot of plastic in our brains. They learn things so much faster. But that can also be very dangerous because they learn things so much faster. So the installation of things going into the brain, the subconscious, and the nervous system, they actually catch onto it and hold on to it a lot faster. So that's really important to recognize. And I'm saying all of these things because when we do this work, we need to come from a lens of compassion and understanding that at a young age, I learned this really quickly. And now, as an adult, the downside is it's going to take me a lot longer to unlearn it. But have compassion with yourself. So, this is what happens. When we become so comfortable and in when our nervous system becomes really comfortable. So, and learning a pattern. So our nervous system will create anxiety loops. It will push through conditioning, also known as that overriding. It can have collapse cycles. And if you're not familiar with what a collapse cycle is, a collapsed nervous system state is when the body shuts down into conservation mode, which is really that hypoarousal, that drop, because it feels overwhelmed or unsafe. And it often shows up as numbness, exhaustion, again, that disconnection, or just a sense that you just can't take action, even if you wanted to. So, even in that collapsed cycle, it's important to understand that this really does happen and it creates immobilization. So, you're not lazy, you're not unmotivated. It's the body actually has collapsed on itself and needs that time to just try to get back in like again, it's in that conversation mode, conservation mode, not conversation, and it's trying to build up your reserves again so that you can keep going. It also shows as emotional reactivity. Perfectionism is a really big one. And then again, overfunctioning, which is that overriding. That is really that survival and trauma response. So, regulation isn't about forcing calm, it's about retraining the rhythm. And we retrain that through sensation, repetition, and attunement. And then, one of the things that you may not notice in this video that I actually really do love is that we really do have this gift of adaptation. Adaptation is what helps us when we are in survival mode. Adaptation is what helps us when we want to move out of survival mode. So, this video really shows how our brain and nervous system has this incredible ability to just adapt. And we actually don't have to think about it, we don't have to force it, we can adapt. So, even when we do nervous system work or we're regulating our nervous system, the key isn't forcing, it's allowing and giving your system permission to adapt. Okay, so now we're going to actually be doing some work because, again, giving you all of this theory, we need to actually put it into practice. So, we're going to learn how regulation works. And so our nervous system responds again to sensation first, story second. So if you try to talk yourself into calm, it is not going to land. The body has to shift first. And I'm going to go back to when working in crisis. So when we have somebody who is in crisis, the brain has overridden that emotional, creative, intuitive side of us and has now created and phase locked this rigid structure and system in place as a protection mode. When we go to help somebody in crisis, telling them, you know what, you're going to be okay, everything is okay, you're not in danger anymore, does not work. They literally physically cannot hear you. It literally sounds like rah, 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 rah. So instead of going in to help somebody like that, the first thing you want them to do is start connecting with their body. Because the moment that they start connecting with the body, that rigidity that is holding on to the brain will start to relax and to release. We have to signal to the body for the brain to connect that it is safe. And once we get that person grounded, and they may not be 100% safe, but they're not in that, fight, flight, freeze mode, we can then show them that where they're at is safe, that I am here to support you, that you in this moment is okay. So let's talk about when you're mobilized or you're in that anxious or activated mode. One of the things that you need, and I'm going to just kind of show you a few of these things first, and then I'm going to have you do some of them. But when you're mobilized, you need grounding and really long exhales. So one grounding cue is enough. We don't have to do multiple levels of like, here, let me ground you 50 million times. You just have to find the one that clicks. That's it. You only need one. So one of the ways that we can do grounding when we're in that mobilized activation mode is by pressing our feet onto the floor, X kind of sitting straight up, and we inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. And now remember, we want the exhale to be even longer. So we're going to exhale for 6 or 8 seconds. So we exhale, you know, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The key is, and let's say if you're helping someone else, or just even if you're helping yourself, is to keep doing it until that hits a rhythm. Because you'll notice when you're anxious, you go to inhale and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then your exhale is like, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The key is that 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the same rhythm and speed on the exhale. So those are just some key things to look for because the thing that usually becomes distorted is our breathing. We oftentimes don't realize when we're breathing shallow, when we're breathing heavy, when we're over breathing. So it's really important to focus on that breath. And breath connects to the brain, it always sends signals to the brain. 20,000 plus times a day we breathe. That is 20,000 plus signals we send to the brain on the daily. So breathing is really important. So when we're in a collapsed phase, one of the things that we need is just gentle activation. So one of the ways that we can do that is through just shoulder rolls and trying to align our breathing with our shoulder rolls. So maybe we shoulder roll back, we take a deep breath in, and then when we do finish the roll and the shoulders go back into the starting position, that might be the exhale. And so we roll the shoulders with the breathing. And somebody who might be in a heightened state, when we say your shoulders are to your ears, an indication that this is working is you'll start to see and in yourself feel the shoulders start to drop. And that means we're starting to get into that gentle activation. The nervous system is responding and it's regulating. So when we are very anxious, again, one of the things we need is rhythmic movement. And this is actually my favorite. And we sometimes we do this naturally. I saw this a lot when I worked in crisis and in probation, is that I could tell when somebody's anxiety was through the roof. Because you sit them down, which is oftentimes really hard to do because anxious people like to pace. But if you can get them to gently sit down, we don't want to take away the movement, but sitting down also can help get the system knowing that, okay, it's okay, I'm safe. But it's that gentle swaying. You can sway from side to side, forward and back. One of the things that I always encourage is giving you some of that, like that self-soothing, is just kind of hugging yourself and just allowing the body to just sway back and forth, side to side. And it actually creates comfort. And what we are creating in the brain is that, when we were upset as like infants, mom picks us up, she holds us, and then what does mom do? Holds us and maybe pats us and sways us, right? To help calm the nervous system. That's a beautiful way that moms help in regulating the child's nervous system. So as adults, we still need that. Okay. So I mentioned some ways to know when you start to regulate. Again, the most important is when the breathing starts to shift, the muscles start to soften. And that's when your mind starts to come back online. What does that mean, the mind coming back online? That means that both hemispheres are starting to work in a coherent and harmonic way. It may not be perfect, but you start thinking a little bit clearer. You kind of look around the room, and the room doesn't look like it's closing in on you. You start to see things from that fog being lifted and that fog moving away. And so, again, be gentle with yourself because even when we do these regulation techniques, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden my brain's going to be, I'm clear, I'm ready to go. We have to be gentle with ourselves because that actually, us jumping up thinking that we're okay, can put our system back into shock again. And we don't want that. We just want to just nice, easy moving through the rhythm. Okay, so now I'm going to have you do these. And so we're going to start off by doing wave breathing. You're probably already familiar with this, but it is just about closing your eyes. And if you want, anytime I breathe, I like to put my hand on my chest because I like to feel the rhythm of my heartbeat and my breathing. But I just want you to close your eyes. You're just going to picture your breath again as that wave, like you're the ocean. And we're going to breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. And then exhale for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's exhale even longer this time for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I just want you to keep going in whichever rhythm works for you. And I just want you to settle into that rhythm. And maybe just one more inhale and exhale. And at the end of that exhale, all I want you to do is just bring your body into your awareness and just notice the sensations that you're feeling. That's it. Just noticing it. Because the beautiful thing about awareness is the moment that it hits our awareness, the subconscious clicks on and says, oh, here's something new I need to pay attention to. And so that's why doing breath work is actually really important because it can help rewire the patterns in the subconscious because it's rewiring that neuroplasticity in the brain. Okay, so we're going to do the next one. So this is when we're low in energy. It's called spark breathing. And it's gonna, I always think this one is really kind of weird, but kind of fun. It is short. It's a short 2-second inhale and then just a natural exhale. So it kind of looks like this. So it's two short, quick, short inhales in, natural exhale out. And in that natural exhale out, don't cut yourself short. Make sure that the exhale completely comes out before you do the next 2 short breaths in. The reason being is you don't want to hyperventilate yourself. So the air needs to come all the way out for us to bring it back in. And we don't want to create a pattern of overbreathing either. So if we consciously let that exhale go all the way out, it's good and healthy for us. And then we can bring that in. So go ahead and give that a go. Two short exhales in, all the way exhale out. 2 in, all the way out. And I'll let you practice that just a little bit longer. I won't have you keep doing it to pass out. And you don't have to do this for a long time. All you need to notice is when if your energy is low, feel your body and feel the energy uptick in the body. So it will move from a low state to a little bit more of an energized state, not an anxious state, but more energy in the body. And when you feel that, that's then you know that you're just kind of regulating that system. Okay, so the next one is when we're having spiraling thoughts. Those over anxious thoughts, that ruminating, those thoughts that we sit here and go, I cannot turn off my brain. And one of the best things for this is box breathing. So that's the inhale. You inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. And so that's that fun box breathing when you've got the thoughts going, because what it does is it really forces you to hold those counts. And so now the brain goes from the spiraling thoughts to focusing on my breathing. So this is one that a lot of people really know. So we're just going to do 2 rounds of it. So go ahead and start. We're going to inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. And then again, inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 4, 3, 2, 1. And so that is the box breathing. And then I demonstrated this, and I really feel like this one is so important, is when we have those emotional waves, it's the sway breathing. So earlier I told you if you want to wrap your hands around, I just naturally do that. But if you want to like hold yourself and just sway. But in this sway, allow your body to just move in the rhythm it wants to move. And as it moves, if your body's like, I'm going to move forward, we're going to inhale on forward, exhale on the sway back. If it's side to side, we're going to inhale on one side, exhale on the other side. And depending on the rhythm of your sway, you'll notice that your breath will start to move on it. So sometimes when I worked with people in crisis, their sway would be like really fast. And so I would sway. So what I would do is I would mirror them and I would slow the sway down and they would start to mirror me. So if you find that your sway is moving really fast, a good way to help mirror back to you what you're wanting is to do this in the mirror and just look at yourself as you do it, because it's going to register, holy moly, I'm swaying so fast. You will naturally start to slow yourself down. Okay. So those are some very quick ways. You don't have to spend, you don't have to spend 10 minutes on them. Literally 2 to 5 minutes will help get you back into regulation. It may take a little bit longer if you're in a very heightened state, but it will help bring it back into rhythm. That spark breathing is really good. The 2 seconds in, the regular exhale out is really good when you are in that hypoarousal, which is that kind of that lower arousal where we're trying to conserve that energy, but we do need our energy to pick back up. That spark energy is really good for that. All right. So now we're going to listen to our bodies talking to us. Um, this is a form of muscle testing. that we can do. But even if, like, I'm going to be honest, I'm not very good at muscle testing, but but we can still hear the yeses and nos of the rhythm of our bodies. So, to regulate your rhythm, you do have to be able to feel what a yes feels like and to feel the sensation of what a no feels like in your body. This is where a lot of times the overriding happens because our body is screaming no, but our brain overrides it to make it a yes. And usually 9 times out of 10, we in hindsight, we're like, that was not the best decision to make. So we really want to listen to those yes and no's. So remember, your mind decides from pressure. Our bodies decide from truth. Our bodies only know truth, but the mind tries to convince it of something else. So I'm going to go ahead and I just ask you to close your eyes. And you don't even have to do anything special with this, but I want you to bring to mind something that feels like a yes. And once you have that in your mind, continue to hold it. While at the same time, I just want you to notice, how does the body feel when you have a yes? Does it feel warm? Does your muscles soften? Does the body open up and create openness? Maybe you feel lighter. Maybe you can feel the cells getting happy because it's a yes and they're dancing around. Just want you to notice what that yes feels like. All right, now what I want you to do is I just want you to shake it out so we don't hold on to the yes. Shaking it out, shaking it out. All right. And then go ahead and close your eyes again. And I want you to think of a no. What is a no? Hold that no in your mind and then notice the sensations in the body. Maybe it starts to tighten. Maybe you feel your muscles tighten. Maybe you feel the clenching of the jaw or the tightening of the jaw and the facial bones. I say facial bones, but I meant facial muscles. Your bones can't tighten, but your muscles can. Maybe you feel your energy pull back, or maybe you actually physically pull back. Maybe it's holding your breath. These are really important for you to recognize. And believe it or not, this is a great exercise for people that really want to tap into that intuitive side of them because your intuition speaks through the body before it enters anything else. So, this is a great way to hone in your intuition. So, just as like a little sidebar, when I'm wanting to feel into something or I'm wanting information, what I usually go into is the body first. And I start asking it yes or no questions to start getting it to align. And then I usually can tell when it's ready because my nervous system is centered and it is calm. And then I start asking it my curiosity questions. The who, what, when, where, and why. Those are like my five main go-to. I want to know. And I start asking it. And this is, like I said, this is a great way to step into that intuitive side. Because when we understand this, we actually start, when we listen to our body, we take the mind out of it because the mind is what gets in the way of our intuitive sense, anyways. Because remember, the mind wants, when it latches onto the intuitive side, it wants to become rigid. So, this is a way of taking it away by using your body and not your mind. All right. So now that we've done the breathing, we've done all of the yes or no prompts. Now we're going to talk to the body. And this is an exercise that I like to call, it's called the body cue map. And you can use the body cue map at any time. So it could be, you could use it daily just to check in and see where you're at. It could be that you kind of gone through a difficult moment We can go back to the body Q map to see where we're at. So, what I want you to do, and we're going to use this moment that you're in, again, your pen and paper to have you write, is that I'm just going to ask you these questions, and I'm just going to give you a few minutes to do it so that we don't completely run out of time. But the first question is, and I want you to have your body answer it, not your mind. When I'm pushing past myself, my body feels what? Okay. When I'm overwhelmed, my body does what? When I'm in a natural pause, I notice. When I'm rising again, I feel. And then the last one to know that our nervous system is behaving and doing what it is that we're needing it to do. When something is aligned for me, I feel what? Beautiful. So this is your current internal navigation system. We don't look at the map queuing to be like, oh, this is what happens to me when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need to change that. We're not trying to force change. We look at it and say, okay, so now I know that when I feel overwhelmed, this is a cue that my body gives me. And that cue is going to give me the awareness that something is not right. And then we look at, so when I'm in alignment, this is what it looks like. I now know that I need to do, maybe it's swaying, maybe it's a breathing exercise, maybe it's walking out in nature. I need to do something to try to help move my nervous system from dysregulation to regulation. And that's all this is just information. And it's just to help us understand our bodies better. And I talk about this a lot because our nervous system is very much connected to our intuition. It is connected to our gifts. When we are struggling to really connect with those parts of us that are in alignment, it is because our nervous system is dysregulated. It is not it's working more against us than for us, even though it's really thinking that it's working for us. Our nervous system as human beings I'm going to say, is our technology. It is our technology that connects to the field of coherency. And this is my opinion, is that we spend most of the time trying to do everything else. And the thing that we forget the most is this beautiful technology that is interwoven within all our entire body, that is connected to a brain that can create change through our neuroplasticity, and a subconscious that is there trying to run in the background to help us in our regulation with our nervous system. We have this beautiful technology in our bodies, and we try to bypass it or override it all the time. And so, if we can conquer our nervous system by getting to know it and understand it and to work with it, I'm telling you, our intuition opens wide up. Okay. So most people don't lack motivation. A lot of people will say that. I will have clients come to me and they'll just be like, I'm just so not motivated. And 9 times out of 10, there is kind of sometimes that less than 1% that really doesn't have motivation. But 9 times out of 10, it's not a lack of motivation. It's a lack of self-trust because they literally have abandoned their body. And so and I'm telling you, every single time you override exhaustion, or you push through that pause, or you break trust with yourself, we are telling our nervous system and our brain that we don't trust it. We're not trusting our own internal technology, beautiful technology. So, self trust really comes from honoring your cues consistently, not perfectly, consistently. And that is just the key. We're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for consistency and awareness. And the truth is when you regulate your rhythm, you really truly regulate your life. And then and then truthfully, our external world completely shifts because now we are in rhythm with what it is that we're wanting to create. And we are coherent with that beautiful harmonic field that we're always connecting to. And but we're coherent on a higher vibration versus when our nervous system is all messed up on a lower vibration. Okay. So now I'm just going to close us out with a meditation to just kind of bring all of us and you all back to, you know, your rhythm in yourself. I'm just going to have you close your eyes. And again, just place your hand on your heart and your belly. And I don't want you to do anything in particular except feel the rise and the fall. Feel the pulse and just feel the intelligence within you. And I want you to feel that. And I want you to honor it. And I just want you to embrace it and embody it because this is your beautiful rhythm. And then I just want you to whisper to yourself, I listen. And then feel the rhythm of that. And then whisper to yourself, I trust. And just feel the rhythm of that. And then finally, just whisper to yourself, I honor my rhythm. And whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes and just come back into the room you're in. Beautiful. Okay, so I hope that I gave you some really good tools to help in regulating your nervous system, helping you get into your natural flow. And the only thing that I can do is just encourage you to practice them. And there are other techniques outside of what I gave you that may work for you. I just encourage you really just try to be consistent with them. If there is inconsistency, do not beat yourself up. Remember, we can always get back on the path. And the key is to get your system to unlearn all of that unhealthy stuff. And we're going to start teaching it to learn how to connect with all of the healthy stuff. So, in the next class for next Saturday, we're going to really step into the art of flow. And this is the place where divine timing meets aligned action. So, we're going to learn how to sense energetic windows when creation feels effortless through that regulation of the nervous system. That's why I wanted to do this first. And then how to honor just life's natural pauses without labeling them as being stuck or wrong, and just really embody what rhythm means. And then that will be the start of just helping you begin to just really live and lead in your life in harmony with the same intelligence that moves in and out with the tides and the moon and most importantly, every beating of your heart. So we're going to have that class on the 20th. And the beautiful thing about it is what is going to make all of this just so powerful is that, again, it's not just conceptual. We're actually bringing it to life. And we're bringing it to life with very, very simple techniques. It's not these elaborate things or these, even though, and I do love these, but these long meditations that take us far away off to something, because that actually, if we have a dysregulated regulated nervous system, it actually can create more dissociation. And so the result that you can experience from that, even though it feels good, and of course it feels good because dissociation can feel good to the mind, not necessarily the body, but it can dissociate us so much that we kind of get on this high. And then within a few hours, all of a sudden, we're kind of back where we started. And it's because the nervous system is always going to pull us back to what's safe, comfortable, and convenient. So if we can practice doing even these little things, this can help us in really unlearning and relearning what it is that we need to do. So, again, I just want to throw out the caveat. I am not against those fun meditations that take us to places, but I always just caution you have to make sure that you know where your nervous system is before we get too caught up in that, because dissociation is real and we can't install new learnings from a dissociated place. We have to be in our bodies to do that. So I just want to share that with you as key to, if you want to make changes, you've got to be in the body. We can't be off somewhere else. We've got to come back into the body.